Welcome to the Explainer. You know that feeling, right? You're a front-end dev, you're ready to ship, but you're just stuck, completely blocked, waiting for the back-end team to make what feels like a tiny API change. Well, today, we're going to look at an AI-powered way to build the exact API you need on the fly by transforming the services you already have.
So here's the plan. First, we'll talk about that API bottleneck problem, because we've all been there. Then we'll get into the magic of instant AI transformation. After that, it's hands-on time. We're going to build one of these things. And finally, we'll deploy it and see how it all comes together.
Okay, let's set the stage. Modern applications, they're really just a bunch of services talking to each other, right? And APIs are the glue that holds everything together. But what happens when that glue starts to get old and hard? Well, your helpful APIs suddenly become a major development bottleneck. I mean, this slide just says it all. This is a frustration every single dev team knows. The front end is raring to go, but they're grounded. Maybe they need data in a slightly different shape, or they need to combine data from two different places. That means a new ticket, waiting in a backlog, development, testing, deployment. It's a cycle that just absolutely kills a team's momentum.
So what if you could just skip all that? Imagine putting a smart, super fast layer right on top of your existing APIs. A layer that can reshape, combine, and serve up exactly the data you need precisely when you need it. And the best part? It's all powered by AI. That's what we're digging into today.
The whole concept is actually really simple. Instead of you writing a bunch of boilerplate code, you just describe what you want. You give it an example of the API calls you're working with using a simple curl command, and then you show it what you want the final API response to look like. The AI takes it from there and handles all the heavy lifting. And when I say fast, I mean fast. This transformation layer adds, on average, just 0.04 milliseconds to your API calls. For perspective, a blink of an eye is about 100 milliseconds. This is so quick, it's basically unnoticeable. It's practically zero overhead. And this is where it gets really mind-blowing. When you compare this to your typical cloud functions or serverless solutions, you're looking at a performance boost of up to 1,000 times. That's not just an improvement, that is a total game changer, especially if you're building anything that needs to be snappy.
So what's the big secret to that speed? Well, this right here is a huge part of it. 0 millisecond cold starts. You know how so many cloud functions have that annoying wake-up delay on the first request? Gone. These endpoints are always on, always hot, always ready to go. No more making your users wait. So how do they pull this off? It's actually a pretty clever best-of-both-worlds trick. The AI generates the logic in TypeScript, which is awesome because millions of developers know it and it's easy to read and edit if you need to. But then, and this is the key, before deployment, it gets compiled down into a super-optimized native Rust binary. So you get the ease of a friendly language with the raw speed of a systems language.
All right, that's enough talk. Let's actually see this thing in action. We are going to walk through the creation wizard step by step and build a totally new API transformation that pulls data from a couple of different places and mashes it into one clean endpoint.
Okay, so the very first thing you do is create a project. You can just think of this as a folder or a workspace for a set of related APIs. It's where you keep all your transformations, your security settings, all that good stuff in one organized spot.
So here we are inside our e-commerce project. We can see any other transformations we might have already built. And to get started, it's as easy as you'd hope. You just click that big New Transformation button.
Now the wizard kicks off and it starts with a really simple question. How do you want to call your new API? But instead of making you fill out a bunch of forms, you just paste in a curl command. That one little line of text tells it everything. The path, the HTTP method, any headers, it's super simple.
Okay, next up, we have to define our inputs. Where's the data for our new API actually going to come from? And sure, you could just transform one source, but the real magic happens when you start aggregating multiple APIs together, which is exactly what we're going to do here.
And this is probably the most important step. We've told it how to call our API and where the data comes from. Now, we tell it exactly what we want to get back. You just paste in a JSON object that looks exactly like your ideal response. This is your blueprint. This is the goal.
All right, so think about what we've done. We've said, here's my input, here are my data sources, and here's the final JSON I want. So the big question is, how do we actually connect all those dots? And this is where you just lean back and let the AI do its thing. We hit generate, and it takes everything we've given it so far, the request,
the sources, that target output, and uses all of that as one big, detailed prompt to start writing the code.
And boom! Just like that, in a matter of seconds, we have real, working JavaScript code. You can see it right there. It's making calls to get data from our different sources, it's pulling out the specific fields we need, and it's mapping everything into that new JSON structure we wanted. It's all there.
So we've got the code, but it's not actually live yet. Now we hit the final stretch. We need to verify this thing works and then get it deployed. Let's see how we take it from just a block of code to a real, live API endpoint you can hit from anywhere.
Before you push anything live, you have to know it works, right? So the platform has this really important contract verification step. It actually runs the code it just generated, using your examples, and it checks to make sure the output perfectly matches the target JSON you provided. And as you can see, we got a perfect match.
So the logic is verified. Now deploying is literally just one click. That kicks off the whole pipeline, which takes our friendly JavaScript, compiles it down into that wicked fast Rust binary we talked about, and pushes it up to a staging environment.
And just like that, we are done. Our new API transformation is live and in production. The system gives us the final URL for the endpoint and even a sample request we can copy and paste to start using it in our apps right away.
Now, here's where things get really interesting and kind of future-proof. This doesn't just create a normal API for your app. It also automatically sets up a special endpoint that lets AI agents discover and use your new transformation as a tool. Think of it like a phone book that other AIs can use to figure out how to interact with your service.
And that really brings us to the final big question. We're moving toward a web where AI agents are going to be doing a lot of the work, interacting with services on our behalf. This tech is one way to get ready for that future, but it leaves us all with something to think about. Is your API infrastructure ready for this new agentic web?